Okay, well, the situation happened. 138 officers were injured, along with literally hundreds of other people. Like you mentioned in the very beginning, 4 officers who responded to the attack died by suicide within 7 months of the situation. Plus, a lot of people got hurt. People had heart attacks. It was a chaotic situation, to say the least. And I guess after the riot, you spoke to reporters and you said the fact that we had a bunch of traitors in office hunker down, put on their gas masks and retreat into the underground bunker, I consider that a win.
Okay.
So the whole situation happens and you weren't arrested or detained or anything else like that day, right?
That is correct. Now, something I think is really important to mention here is that there were over 1 million people in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. Over 1 million, okay? And the amount of people that were breaking the law at the Capitol on that day is literally less than 1% of the people that were in Washington, D.C. on that day protesting the election. So what has happened is that the media has chosen to shine a spotlight on a very specific event. And they have had the nerve to say that it was the worst tragedy in American history. They've compared it to Pearl Harbor and 9/11. They said that it was the worst thing to ever happen to the Capitol, when they completely ignore the fact that the Weather Underground blew up the Capitol in the 70s. The fact that Puerto Ricans literally stormed the Capitol and shot congressmen. Okay, that happened, I think, in the 50s or the 60s. And they just completely ignore those things because it was their side that was doing these things. Okay, the fact of the matter is, what the media has done, what these congressmen have done, is something called neuro-linguistic programming, where they are attempting to associate a very specific event and shocking images and trigger words with events from our past that are traumatic to the American people. And in an attempt, in doing this, they are attempting with all of their might to gain centralized power. And this is the rule, not the exception with governments. This is the rule, not the exception with tyranny, is that they use and exploit certain situations as an excuse to centralize power and increase their authority.
Well, hundreds of people stormed the Capitol, but clearly you stood out based on the way that you're dressed, right? So on January 8th, you were posted as a person of interest with the Washington, D.C. police. While you're actually being wanted, you did an interview with NBC. You said, you didn't do anything wrong. I walked through an open door, dude. And you said you weren't worried about possible charges and you had no criminal record before this whole situation. But then on January 9th, you were actually arrested and brought up on U.S. federal charges of knowingly entering or remaining in any restricted building or on grounds without lawful authority and with a violent entry and disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds. You were indicted on 6 charges, 2 of which were felonies. How did you feel when you got arrested? And number one, how did you get arrested?
I called the FBI when I found out they were looking for me. I set up a meeting with them because I don't run. I don't tuck my tail and run. I don't hide. I'm not a coward. I'm a man of honor and integrity. If the FBI is looking for me, just like Jesus in the garden, bro, here I am. I am he.
Okay.
So I turned myself in. I went into the field office. They told me they weren't going to arrest me, and naively, I believed them. Okay? They said they just wanted to talk, and so I talked to them. As soon as I got in the interrogation room, they read me my Miranda rights.
Okay, so you get arrested, and now you go to jail for the first time. I remember there was an article that you refused to eat because the food wasn't organic, and they actually had a court order to give you organic food.
That is correct. A court order that the gulag in D.C. could not comply with, either would not or could not.
Okay. And then you get a lawyer, Watkins, right?
Your timeline is off. I got the lawyer when I was in Arizona in Florence, and he was my lawyer and is the one that filed the motion to get me an organic diet.
Got it.
Al Watkins was probably the worst lawyer I could have picked to represent me.
Okay, well, Watkins made a written statement saying that you had no part in the violence, did not hide your identity, you were unarmed, not destructive, and you followed the instructions of law enforcement officials in a respectful manner. Also, he presented evidence that you had been diagnosed with schizophrenia while serving in the Navy.
Well, that's also misinformation. No, I was not diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Okay,
what I was diagnosed with was
Mhm.
something called schizotypal personality disorder. And basically what that is that is a diagnosis that basically you believe strange things and you are awkward in social situations that cause you to isolate yourself from time to time, basically. And like by that rationale, over half the world has schizotypal personality disorder, bro.
Okay.
So you got to understand, the modern psychology is a group of shouting charlatans. They don't fully know or understand how the brain works or why it works the way that it does. What they've done is they've put labels over people, in particular children, that have a bunch of symptoms that they can then use as an excuse to medicate people and make money off of them. Why do you think they're prescribing children amphetamines?
Well, you yourself, had you ever been on medication leading up to this situation?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't take drugs, dude. I don't do drugs.
Got it.